Hello. I feel like I owe an update. So I think it's my fourth full day out of the hospital, and I believe it is my full day 9 since surgery. I feel like that's close enough. Um, and I definitely had some, concerns about how I would do in the hotel room, not having like the assistance of the mechanical bed and whatnot. And I feel like some of that's gone better than I expected. I feel like I've got an exceptional live-in nurse, and good strategies, and also my body is, changing, and aspects are a little more robust from the healing. But there's other parts that I am also kind of processing that are hard about the recovery, right? Like, I think that how bad things were getting. I was just really, in the past 6 months, watching myself decline, and also like especially in the last 3 months, just doing everything I could to limit the decline, because it was becoming quite startling. And some of the things I did is like, 6 months ago I stopped going anywhere except for appointments, medical appointments, and then like 3 months ago or 2 months ago, I stopped going to medical appointments because I realized just the strain of like having to walk around and be in the car really stirred things up. And now also understanding that the level of instability and also the misalignment really bumping up against my brainstem and spinal cord makes a lot of sense. Like, maybe I'm only in the car for 15 minutes, but especially in that seated position, that putting more pressure on my spinal cord and brainstem, it, really did it to me. Um, and so as I'm like here, I realize that like I've gone from, one sense of urgency to the next. I've just tried to do everything I could to maintain as much neurological integrity in my body for as long as possible. And, I'd got approved for surgery and things were getting all set up, and I was waiting on my paperwork, and then there was an issue between Canada and India, and I was like ready to get my visa, but the paperwork wasn't in yet, and that created a 5-week delay. And in that 5 weeks, we were just trying to like hold out with time, but because I was getting so much worse so quickly, we started working on getting my doctors in Canada on board, and emergency petition and all of that going. And thankfully, around that time, those letters were created, but also the opening happened, and I got to go kind of to the front of the line and travel, within, I think it was like 5 days of the opening, and actually within 5 days of receiving the visa, which only took like a day. And so I kind of like thinking about all this, it's like I just had to stay focused and patient. And also like it was kind of survival, right? Now I've done the thing. I've done surgery. It was really, really hard. It's still really, really physically hard. I, was in really rough physical shape prior to surgery. Then I added a lot of travel and jet lag. And then they got me in quickly once I was here. And, I've, even after that, I've experienced, the miraculous experience of being able to walk again. Like, I came in a walker I could only use some of the time, and then I was in a wheelchair the rest of the time, and now I have very, very little stamina, but I'm walking better. And I'm struggling a bit to kind of know where I am in space. Like, there's actually a bunch of the stroke rehab I was doing starting April of 2022 was like kind of brain training, where you kind of teach your brain where you are in space. And one of the tools I kind of was reinforced and also kind of built up is like part of what's helped me not kind of fall over is when I walk around, I'm always have like either I'm leaning because I'm struggling that much, or I'm like using my finger to touch the wall, and it helps me from that kind of not knowing where I'm in space and my head falling. So I'm doing a lot of that now, which is actually a huge step up and really great brain training. And I'm walking, which is great, but I also have very little energy. And I kind of bring all this up because it's like I've had to be really determined really dedicated and really patient, but there's also this part of me that's like tenacious, like the fight in me has been so strong. And now I'm kind of facing like, okay, like the survival part is done. Like, I'm gonna live, and I had the right surgeon, and a complicated, difficult surgery turned more complicated because of that misalignment. And despite that, I'm walking, like, because that realignment is quite, from what I understand, even more risky business. But now I have this time, and I have this one piece, but I also have these other pieces where I'm just like, I don't feel good. Like, it's not about complaining, but it's just rough being in this body. And prior to the more obvious things, like people noticed over the last almost couple of years, me kind of falling all the time, that was obvious. The paralysis was super obvious, and definitely the speech, when it was really, really bad, was obvious. But now that some of those things kind of done very well, although I'm pretty fatigued, there's all this other stuff, and I'm kind of in this waiting period where I've done the right thing. I'm gonna live, I'm gonna walk, but we don't really know the future. And I have hope. I will, even if I have a little hope, I will work hard for that. Like, that's ingrained in my personality. But it's also really difficult because I want it all to happen at once. I want it all to be miraculous healing. And I was actually really fortunate that I was in contact with my Canadian specialist at the Whiplash Clinic, and he's just he's reminding me that, like, I've had 14 years, but more than a decade of pretty severe neurological compression, that I was just able to work so hard to get these little snippets of normalcy out of my life and function, right? Like, I had to work so hard to have those little patches. I had to plan ahead with my energy. I had to be careful what I did. I had to leave myself time to crash after. I had to, like, give up a lot of things to do that and get by. And over time the neurological compression was worse, and he's just saying, like, that's gonna take a lot of time. Like, a lot of changes are gonna happen in this first year. And it was kind of helpful to hear that. But on the other hand, it's like, I'm 40, and I've been dealing with this since I was 26, and the waiting is hard. It's changed a lot in my life. It's changed a lot of options in my life. And I think I've kind of avoided updating people on what's going on with me, partly because I feel like I'm just supposed to be like, everything's great, hallelujah. And it's not that I'm not grateful for what is good, but there's also a part of me that's like, I don't want to go back to just barely functioning, right? Like, I know what the critical is like. I know how scary that was. I know how scary that was for, like, my family to see. Like, it really freaks people out. And I'm so lucky that I'm not there. But I also really want more in my life, and I want more options, because I think, like, that's what life's all about. Life's about having the stamina to engage with the people you care about. Life's having the stamina to be productive in ways that, give you that sense of dedication. Like, all of that is so important, and it's something I've been craving for a long time. And I have a lot of time to think. Particularly recovering in a hotel, I think, is probably one of the more challenging places to recover, just because you don't have those comforts of home. And for me, my home also includes a lot of adaptive things that help me function in this body. And it also involves some cat cuddles and some beautiful plants and all those things that make my heart sing. So I'm just kind of in that awkward space. Like, if all goes well, I'm really hoping I can fly home on the 30th. I've got a bunch of hurdles to make it through, but it's also this really uncomfortable space of, like, I have a lot of time with myself, and Although I can have the energy in moments to like talk, um, the coordination in my vision is very, very challenging, so there's not a lot I can do. Um, so I'm just trying to like do what I can to have the peace where I can, and also do what I can, and hopefully if anyone else is dealing with like really challenging chronic health, to also just like I my identity is my bravery, my identity is my courage, my identity is my tenacious side, and my dedication, but I also need to have room that like this is so hard. It's so hard, and there's such a backlog of things that I've had to compartmentalize from. And like we're all different. Maybe people out there, you guys aren't dealing with like this, but I also know that we all have our own challenges that we carry. Like sometimes it's mental health, sometimes it's physical health, sometimes it's relationships. Like there's just a lot, and I don't want to be inauthentic, so I just really wanted to try to like put myself out there and just say like I'm grateful for the things that are improving, but it's just it's really uncomfortable, it's painful being in this body, um, and it's hard to keep persevering. I will, because that's who I am, and that's my dedication to myself, but it's also the dedication to the people who care about me. But it is hard and it is uncomfortable, and it also is very, very new to be open about my health, because had it not come to this level of life-threatening severity, maybe it's something I never would have been so open about. But at the same time, I also feel like, what would it be like to be loved or cared about or seen as I am? So, and I think a lot of us need that.